I'm happy about where we are. I think the president has struck a good deal for the American people, but fundamentally, the Iranians have got to take the next step, or the president has a lot of options to go back to the war.
If the Iranians are willing, in good faith, to work with us, I think we can make an agreement. If they're going to lie, if they're going to cheat, if they're going to try to prevent even the fragile truce that we've set up from taking place, then they're not going to be happy. Because what the president has also shown is that we still have clear military, diplomatic, and maybe most importantly, we have extraordinary economic leverage.
Right platforms, buy, sell, hold, and
if you want that, you just go buy Bitcoin. And I'm happy if you go buy Bitcoin, but just don't complicate things. Just go buy Bitcoin.
Now what for these markets?
I think the bottom's in, Scott, because last week was a period where the war was getting worse and oil was going up, but stocks weren't going down. So that's a good precondition. And today now we have the rate of change, that the war is de-escalating. So I think stocks are now in the process to go back to their all-time highs, and I think maybe get to that 7,300 that we were expecting this year.
Wow, so let's...
Summer lull that could happen won't be as deep because we've already fallen 8%.
What's the makeup of the move back towards record highs like you just said you thought we would do? What does the makeup of the market look like in that scenario?
I think the leadership has been revealed in the last 6 weeks because since the war started, the number one performing asset class has been crypto, Ethereum, and then energy stocks, Mag 7 software, financials. So to me, that's the group that's leading us up. Energy went up for obvious reasons.
Sure. Isn't it going to go down now for obvious reasons?
Yes. And then the negative correlation to oil was the highest in almost a decade for the Mag 7, Ethereum, and software. So I think that as oil flattens or cools or the curve flattens, those names are going to get a bid, and they've gotten already cheap. We know the Mag 7 is trading almost at a market multiple. An inflation shock still coming. Yeah, and it really depends on if consumers and corporates view this as temporary or a change in inflation. So the surveys will matter a lot, as will the incoming reports. But the Fed Fund futures show the market's shifting back towards cuts.
All right, so
the ceasefire came after the urging of Pakistan, a key mediator. Islamabad has offered to host negotiations between Washington and Tehran on Friday.
Diplomatic effort put forward and spearheaded by Pakistan, and as we understand, and even President Trump credited China to bringing Iran to the negotiating table. So a lot of back-channel diplomacy.
And I think in reality that there is no ceasefire, and there were split screens between, White House announces ceasefire and missiles raining down on the Israelis. We knew that Israel was sending rockets back to Iran. We know what today has looked like in Lebanon with what the Israelis are doing there. It's one of the highest death toll days. So the ceasefire was a complete fiction. Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are seen as being very pro-Israel, and that's why people want to negotiate with J.D. Vance instead of with them, because they think that they may possibly be talking to someone who isn't just representing Israeli interest.
Now, since the JCPOA, since the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, they've put $400 billion into Iran's $400 billion economy and have not seen the return on investment. And if you look at the amount of oil that China depends on from Iran, they do have a say. Without China, without Russia, Iran is really left friendless in a way. And, the way they've treated their divorce attorney Qatar and their divorce attorney Oman during this conflict has further isolated the regime. So China played a huge role. And this is in China's interest. It's also in China's interest and Russia's that Iran does not leave the non-nuclear proliferation treaty. And that's something that they threatened to do in this conflict, and they've walked away from that. And I do believe that's because of China and Russia's pressure on the regime.
It's just too soon to know whether this, quote, fragile truce, referring to Vice President Vance's comment, can hold. And let me tick off a few things that make it unclear as to whether it can hold. First of all, negotiating a true peace agreement on a matter as complex as the Iran conflict typically takes a year or two, not 2 weeks. So the idea that there's going to be a comprehensive peace agreement in 2 weeks, I think, is unlikely. Now, that may lead to extensions of the truce, but number one, it just takes a lot longer than that to get a real agreement. Number two, the Strait of Hormuz. As was just reported, the two sides are not together on that. Iran is essentially saying it intends to control the strait. That was not the case before the war. And by the way, if somehow it ends up that way, it's quite a victory for Iran. And obviously the United States, it's generally speaking, would view that as unacceptable. So, welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And you know I come back with that video just to make you think. And make sure you join the Patreons. And we know every Friday we have an event. And that's the reason why it's so important to join the Patreon. So therefore you keep up to date with the NWO events and then know why it's happening. Because we are seeing movie after movie. Now if you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're donating to the Cash App. Also, go like and follow the TikTok. More videos to come. And what I want you to do right now, guess what? It's free of charge. I want you to hit the like button. I want you to make sure that you're subscribed and share this channel everywhere. And now they have it where you can hide the channel. It's right above the comments. And guess what? That also is free of charge. It's always free of charge to support. And we have J.D. Vance, Witkoff, and Kushner going to negotiate. The drums are beaten. Yes, you cannot make this stuff up. And we know who Witkoff and Kushner work for. And we know we always get entertainment on the weekend. And if you have the NWO book, you know the cycles of media. If you don't understand the cycles of media, you'll never grasp all the distractions and how they pull it off. Definitely make sure you have the NWO book. Now, I put something very, very important inside of the stock Patreon. You have to make sure you're looking at the calendar, people. But we have Jim Cramer saying what? Buy Bitcoin. And we have Tom Lee says that we're at the bottom. And we know that is definitely not correct, but it is earnings time. And we know the banks right now are always good. And because of this energy spike, we know energy is going to have a great quarter. But if you remember, Tom Lee stated in the second quarter we would be pulling back again. And I definitely see a pull back this quarter. And then the drums are beating down just a little. They're not going away. They're going to die down a little just because we're going to be going towards midterms. And we know that's when they step up the Hegelian dialectic. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. And we have Pakistan and China helping out where the drums are beating. And we know China eventually is going to take over Taiwan and eventually be inside of Armageddon. And that's going to start the rise of China's empire and the fall of America to Babylon. We have the United States isolating itself, and now we have Israel isolating itself. And we know history tells us that that never ends well. And we've seen the United States military go around and bully. And China and Russia is definitely going to come in support of Iran. And you heard it from the horse's mouth. If you're part of the Patrons, I couldn't post it here, but I definitely put it inside the Patrons. And again, we're just living a simulation, just going through the phases to lead us to Armageddon. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. And we know the banks control both sides. And this is allowing the Fed to keep rates higher for longer. Inflation is high. No one is talking about tariffs anymore. Unemployment rising. So we know it's just the consumer is the one that keeps taking the beating. And of course, the sheep stay distracted on things that don't matter. And by the time they wake up, we know the fourth industrial revolution is going to be here. And one thing we know is that we do not want to fall on the wrong side of history. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. Because he knows when it comes to the NWO,
It's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
Do you think any risk that is particularly underrated, unseen by global businesses?
Yeah, one of the things that I worry a bit about is cyber risk. So we're clearly in a period of elevated cyber risk as a result of the growing geopolitical conflicts, not just in the Middle East, but in other parts of the world as well. And so we have to be very, very mindful of those risks. And I think AI will present some real opportunities for companies to play defense, but it's also going to create some opportunities, for some folks that are looking to create disruption in the world's economy.
I can announce that the president is dispatching his negotiating team, led by the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, Special Envoy Witkoff, and Mr. Kushner to Islamabad for talks this weekend. The first round of those talks will take place on Saturday morning local time, and we look forward to those in-person meetings.
To what extent do you think that we should cut rates at this point?
Because I think, in essence, I think that we should cut 50 basis points. The policy rate should be set at 3. I believe that the policy rate setting is about 50 basis points too restrictive, but the balance sheet's providing 50 to 75 basis points of accommodation.
In the next series of CPIs and PCE inflation numbers, that the core numbers are staying at 3% or higher. That's a difficult place for the FOMC to be. And I think it's going to be difficult for the committee to lower rates until they are more certain that core inflation is going to be drifting down. And I don't think that'll be until the fall. I would highlight, though, that the shock has just recently happened, and it's going to take some time to see how it funnels through the economy.
No surprise, the Iran war and tariffs were central to the discussion among Fed officials at their March meeting. The full effect of tariffs had not yet moved through the economy, officials said. A resilient economy, they called it. And the war, then only a few weeks old, raised the threat of inflation increasing and hiring slowing. Some participants judged there was a strong case for a two-sided description of the committee's future interest rate decisions in their post-meeting statement, reflecting the possibility that higher inflation might call for rates to be increased, although no member called for a rate move at that meeting.
We're going to have tremendous workforce availability. We're also going to have robots helping us. We're going to have a lot of robots helping us because we need it. And because we're going to town, we're building a lot between the AI and the auto plants. So we're going to need robots. We're going to have robots, but that's going to help us.
Robots hold steady hands in the operating room, and drones are redefining the future of war. Innovations of first-generation humanoids, factory automation, and autonomous vehicles have surged from private sector investment. Every one of these advancements is powered by AI. The robots are here. Our future is no longer science fiction.
Maybe crypto is actually built for the machines and we didn't even know it. And AI can easily handle private keys and easily understands transaction hashes and like how all this stuff works. It is money that is built for computers, even before the computers to intelligently handle it were built. So I find that interesting. And, perhaps those of us who were involved in crypto pre-AI were kind of just like getting the ground ready for the AI systems to have a fully developed financial system handed to them, for better or worse.
This could be perhaps the greatest revolution in financial technology since the birth of the internet itself. Many Americans are unaware that behind the scenes, the technical backbone of the financial system is decades out of date, many, many years out of date. You know that. Paul and others are straightening it out, but payments and money transfers are costly and take days or even weeks to clear. Under this bill, the entire ancient system will be eligible for a 21st century upgrade using the state-of-the-art crypto technology.
And as President Trump has directed, we are going to keep the U.S. the dominant reserve currency in the world, and we will use stable coins to do that.
I think stable coins could reinforce dollar supremacy.
because with stablecoins could end up being one of the largest buyers of U.S. treasuries or T-bills. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, if you are using a stablecoin in Nigeria that's backed by the U.S. dollar, you don't actually have to have dollars. It's on your phone. You can transact. We are going big on digital assets. So Trump administration has made digital assets a priority. I've seen estimates that just over the short term, stablecoins could create $2 trillion of demand for U.S. treasuries and treasury bills. To put that in context, the number is probably about $300 billion right now. We will take a close look at regulatory impediments to blockchain, stablecoins, and new payment systems.
The Department of Commerce is going to start issuing its statistics on the blockchain because you are the crypto president, and we are going to put out GDP on the blockchain so people can use the blockchain for data distribution, and then we're going to make that available to the entire government so all of you can do it. We're just ironing out all the details so we can do it.
Together, these world-leading technology giants are announcing the formation of Stargate. So put that name down in your books, because I think you're going to reduce the cost of virtually all goods and services. It'll make the United States a manufacturing superpower and the world capital of artificial intelligence and crypto. But with today's announcement, we take a major step to bring healthcare into the digital age. Instead of filling out the same tedious paperwork at every medical appointment, patients will simply be able to grant their doctors access to their records at the push of a button. Just a button and you're all set, and all the information the doctor needs will be immediately transmitted.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go, but clearly we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
If we could